Sure it is. Nice. Right?
They gotta get another dog. That's too bad. That's too bad you can't take the dog with you. Do any of your children have cats or dogs? No cats. I guess you don't like cats. Oh, I see. I can't. If people be allergic to cats, but not to dogs. I don't get it. I wrote to my state senator about my complaints about the state budget not being out on time. 4 pages long. 4 pages long. It should be.
All right, can we call the meeting to order? Please rise to the flag.
All right.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So with several emails received by the village clerk regarding fusion recovery, and I'm assuming most, if not all, the people here are regarding that. Numerous comments have been made and several questions asked, but they basically come down to the same issue. When did people know about fusion and why wasn't it the public informed? So I'm going to go through a timeline to the best of my recollection and how I recall it and the information that I've received from others.
Can you talk just a little more?
Yeah.
Really soft.
I'm sorry.
Louder.
Okay. On September 29th, is that better? Okay. September 29th of 2021, 444 Broadway was purchased by Nico Ventures LLC. Early in 2022, Nico and his attorney discussed several items to bring to the plaza. Nothing they brought forth was zoned for it, such as the tow companies, CDL, driving school, etc. In February 2022, NAI Realtor contacted Lyle regarding an outpatient recovery center, looking to see if it was an allowed use. Lyle responded he needed more information. March 28th of 2022, a sign permit was granted to Nico Ventures, where their new sign was put up a couple of months later. May 19th, 2022, a zoning variance request was received in the building department from Fusion Recovery. May 20th, 2022, building department responded that they will need a full rundown of the potential business. May 20th, 2022, response to rundown was received. Fusion's Recovery is a patient-centered, science-based approach to outpatient medical and clinical substance abuse, which combines a targeted medical detox process with a focus on life skills and societal reintegration. Specifically, the business would be an outpatient addiction treatment facility licensed by Oasis that operates daily on an appointment basis. May 31st, 2022, having received the additional information regarding Fusion, Lyle sent them a zoning verification letter as his use under the code was allowed, so did not require a special use permit or a zoning variance, so was handled by the building department for usual practice and not brought before the village or zoning board. No public hearing was needed, again, as the use was allowed by right. July 21st, 2022, a building permit was issued to Nico Ventures for 444 Broadway. Over the next several months, Lyle performed building inspections as regulated by the New York State Building Code. 10/18/2022, Megan Malone, who is the attorney for Nico Ventures, contacted Lyle looking for another zoning verification letter. As Fusion shifted their operation to medical clinic with doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, and licensed clinicians and counselors providing 24/7 care, all licensed and regulated by New York State. While the 24/7 care component was said to be years away, it was addressed by the building department on October 31st, 2022, when Lyle issued the zoning verification letter. January 13th, 2023, I received a text from Steve Boulay asking if I was aware of Fusion coming to Menands. He stated the owner had reached out to him regarding a referral program. I responded, my understanding was it is an outpatient recovery service. Steve said he might the following week and would let me know what he learned. I never heard back from Steve, so I assumed that he was okay with the program coming to Menands and didn't raise any red flags for him either. Next time I heard from Steve was April 5th regarding petitions. Nothing was said about Fusion at that time. At some point around mid to late March, not sure of the exact date, I spoke to Mitch by phone and he further explained the program. There are no red flags for me following this conversation because this is not to be a methadone clinic with people coming and going all day long. It is a full service recovery center for both drugs and alcohol and requires an appointment, counseling, drug testing, etc. Around the end of March, I received a call from Albany County informing me that Allison Lane had confronted Dr. Giordano regarding Fusion. I relayed what my knowledge was of the program and I did not share Allison's concerns. I also stated that while Allison may represent the village of Menands in her role as Albany County legislator, she was not speaking on behalf of Menands, as she had not spoken to me or the board as a whole to present that she was speaking on behalf of the village. As an allowed use by right, the matter had not come before the village board, so we had not taken up a position on it. During a conversation with Tim in early April, he shared that he learned of Fusion and had concerns. The information Tim relayed was not fact-based from my knowledge and understanding of the program. The medical facility must be licensed and regulated by New York State in order to be in business and continue in business. Fully supervised by medical professionals, including doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, licensed clinicians, and counselors, I believed he and Allison were going to raise unnecessary concern in the village if the information he was relaying was spread around. I was told that Oasis would be holding a hearing as part of the licensing process on April 26, 2023. This was relayed secondhand and the village was not notified of this that I was made aware of. Tim spoke at the hearing. I was told after that there was a second vote after Fusion rebutted the claims Tim made during the hearing and the licensing board voted unanimously to approve the preliminary license for Fusion. As this is Oasis's job to approve and oversee facilities, I felt confident that they would not have approved it if there was any concerns. Around April 28th, I was shown a copy of a letter that Tim and Allison had sent around. I'm not sure where it actually went out, when it actually went out, or who received it. Following the letter, the village clerk started receiving emails from residents concerned about Fusion. Initially, I wanted to bring Mitch in to speak to the board to answer any questions I had and hear firsthand about the program and not take others' word for it. At the May 1st board meeting, where a few residents expressed their concerns, I said that we would set up a forum on May 16th where the sole focus would be just on Fusion as opposed to trying to hold this during a regular board meeting. After the notice went out, Dr. Long reached out and said the date conflicted with a school event and asked that we change the date to allow folks an opportunity to attend both. The next available date was May 24th and the forum was held. As I have stated on various occasions, my understanding of the program that Fusion Recovery will be offering did not raise a red flag for me. I've not been doing this job for the past 18 years to lead by bringing in a methadone clinic as has been relayed. Steve Boulay said he thought they had pulled the wool over my eyes. I do not believe this to be the case, but if I am wrong, I will accept the role that I have played in this. I believe it is a program to help those who want to turn their lives around, like my niece did in California, and I pray it can save lives. Anybody on the board want to? Anything to say?
Well said.
Well, I just want to say that, you know, because initially they had to go through the local governmental unit, which is the Albany County Department of Mental Health. There's a process under Section 32 of the mental health law, which requires the applicant to go through community outreach. It says so in the law. They have to have community standing. They have to show that they have operated these facilities before, and they had done none of that. And because it went through Albany County Department of Mental Health, there should have been contact through the Albany County legislator who represented the district, not a letter that they obtained through Michelle Hinchy, who does not represent us. Okay. So the red flags started going up when we found out about this. That's why Allison got involved and she started looking into it. The website they presented had a facility in Tennessee, had a facility in New Jersey. It had very, very elaborate, pretty pictures of what these facilities look like. But when you looked at it, you couldn't see. If you looked at it on your laptop, you could see underneath it said in fine print, these pictures are for illustrative purposes only. They are not currently open, period.
contacted Mr. Chin in Tennessee, who was the contact number. He said that application has been pulled. That is not going forward. Couldn't find anything for New Jersey. The claims he had of having other active facilities did not pan out. He's apparently got something that he's applying for in Lancaster under a Wyndham LLC. That's not open either. So basically, this is an experiment. Okay, he's got a plan. Okay, that he's presented to Oasis, and he's presented to the Albany County Department of Mental Health. There was no due diligence on Albany County Department of Mental Health. I talked to Stephen Giordano myself, who told me it's not my responsibility to do the investigation of the applicant. He's the LGU. So he took a letter from somebody who doesn't represent us, they submitted a copy of the building permit they got from us, which had all our names on it, all the board members' names on it, my name's on there, and that went to Nico Ventures, not to Fusion. It was a building permit, and wrote in report to Oasis, a letter of support from the village of Menands. I knew nothing about it up to that point. I knew nothing about it. So my name was on a letter that he used as support for this facility I did not know about. Now, I can't speak for the other board members, but I can say I didn't know, and that upset me and that embarrassed me, to be perfectly honest. Okay. Then he kind of laid it off on, I did. I went to the presentation. I went to the public hearing at Oasis. Meg told me about it. I think it was the following week.
Tell you about it?
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't.
You mentioned it to me, yes. Yes, you did. Yeah, anyway, that's how I remember finding out about it. Anyway, so I went to the meeting.
Were you the only one there?
Was I the only one there?
Yeah, from the board.
Brian was there.
Okay, because it keeps getting talked about that you were the only one there.
Well, I was the only one that spoke.
Yes.
Yeah, the only one that
There was
spoke.
another representative
In
of the
opposition.
board there that decided.
In opposition, yes. I was the only one that spoke in opposition. That's.
Yeah, I wanted to hear what the hearing was all about.
Great, but why didn't you tell the community about the meeting?
Because I had just found out about it.
Let him finish.
Okay, yeah,
I
I'm
was just
sorry.
curious.
Yeah, I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody else. Anyway, so I gave my, pretty much what I just told you about. I didn't find this facility had any active facilities going. I did not find any track record for this individual making the application. I didn't find that they had properly filed the mental health law. And that, bottom line is, being a small community with a small police force, I had grave concerns about, having this here. I mean, he can call it what he wants. He can call it what he wants. Or, the high-end substance abuse treatment facility, and they're going to control everything on site, but he can't control what happens off site. He cannot control it. He doesn't even own the property.
The only reason why they were able to get a second vote was because you were a sole person.
So what happened was,
More
let me
people
just,
were there,
okay,
they
I'll
wouldn't have
get,
been able to vote.
so I'll get that. So what they did was after I spoke, and I didn't even realize it was the people from Fusion, because I'd never seen them, were there. And after I spoke, they took a vote. There was a motion and a second, and the other 6 board members all voted, so they tabled it, which I thought was good, because that would give us time to learn more and
That was a
get
win.
feedback. Yeah. Sherry Noonan, who's their consultant, jumped up, called me a NIMBY, said I was providing false information. She was also, as a consultant, she was well hired because she was a former commissioner at Oasis. So they knew her. Okay, so she carried a lot of weight. Immediately took another vote, and suddenly the whole thing went through, and they said, we have to accept the recommendation of the LGU, the commissioner of the Albany County Department of Mental Health, Steve Giordano, who I invited here tonight and refused. Okay, just so you know that. So he said he's not responsible for anything to do with it being here.
I think you're leaving out an important detail on that meeting.
Oh.
And one of the details was after you spoke and you had mentioned what your concerns were.
Yeah.
And you did mention, by the way, that even though you were a member of the village board, that you were acting as a private.
I said I was there as a private citizen. I cannot speak as a member of the
And you
board. I
made
did
some
state
good
that.
points and they tabled it. And after that, that's when the former commissioner jumped up
Right.
and jumped in and said,
While I was speaking, by the way, I had to sign up to speak. as far as I know, she was not signed up to speak, but they let her go ahead and jump up because I had to, you couldn't just speak. You had to sign up to speak.
And as a former commissioner, she probably has some
Lot of
connections on the
deference.
committee,
There
and
was a
she
lot of
carries
deference.
more sway than the average person would. So she jumped up, she says, you know, this isn't the first time we've gone through this, and you can see the video. Says, this is nothing but NIMBYism, is what she accused him of. This is just NIMBYism, and we have a letter of recommendation from Senator Hinchey. Now, this was on April 26th.
Right.
Hinchey rescinded that letter on April 3rd.
Right.
So you've got this woman claiming that there's support from Hinchey, you're a NIMBY, and that there was also support from the mayor of Menands. You weren't identified, Mayor Grenier, as a private citizen. It wasn't, you know, there was no separation there at all. But she
did use her name, yes.
She said the mayor supports this, Hinchey supports this. That's when she threw it back to the board to get a vote, saying, we have one person in opposition here. This guy, we have a senator who's for it. We have the mayor who's for it. You can watch the
No,
video.
I'm not saying, I just don't agree that you said it, but I never had a conversation with her.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm not saying.
They didn't know that I
They
was
wouldn't
in
have
support.
voted a second
None,
time.
I had no position at that time.
But here's the problem. When
That's
They
incorrect.
totally.
That's
one
not
person
true.
was there.
That's incorrect.
I have emails to prove it.
That's incorrect.
In any case.
Not objecting is different.
That you don't
Not,
support it? Is that
not
what you're saying?
objecting is
I have to
different from
speak
support.
about what I was in the discussion about, so.
There's a difference.
Okay.
So, this is what I find most concerning. So she nails him. She pulls up false support from a senator that had rescinded it, saying that the mayor as an official is for it. Now, I know you didn't give her permission, but she did, but this is all part of what went on to get the second vote.
Yeah.
And here's the problem I had, Brian, you were there. As she's going through all this and saying, we only have one person here who objects. And this was at a point where you had already heard from the community that there were other concerns. But you just
And you
just
hadn't
let it ride.
decided that, and you knew the mayor wasn't speaking, or that woman wasn't speaking from the mayor as the mayor either, and you didn't object. You didn't say, no, that is not true.
Chuck, Steve,
I was not signed up to speak there. I was there to
Neither
listen.
was she.
to listen. She was representing the,
Brian, what capacity were you there as the village board or a resident?
neither.
Okay,
So what were you
So what
there
were you there
for?
I was there to listen to what the board
as a
has-
resident or a board?
As a
member?
resident,
Okay, thank you.
correct.
So the rest of us couldn't be present for that. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
We just
It
solidified that.
No, no,
Bottom line,
No,
I think,
no.
Brian,
Stop spinning it.
yes. The public doesn't need to know anything. You've already told us.
Give me a break. That was
I
misspeak.
don't have to
It
give you
wasn't,
a
it
break.
wasn't, it was clear. It was. you
But
made
I
it
have
clear.
some information in here I'd like to speak about if you'd like.
All right, so I addressed the comments that have been sent to the board.
Yes, but you used me, so I'd like to rebut some of that.
Tim, are you done?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say, I just felt when I left the meeting that, I mean, whether it was just me or not, the deference they gave to, their former commissioner, and, you know, the fact that the Albany County Department of Mental Health was able to, without any consideration for this community at all, to, go ahead and say, you know, they all support this, which, as you can plainly see, there's a lot of concern here. That would, if they had actually, you know, he'd actually contacted anybody in this community to find out, you know, how we felt, he might have found out differently. And, you know, so I'm gonna lay the blame squarely on Steve Giordano's feet. And I've so much as responded in an email to him for his not showing up tonight to tell him so.
Thank you, Tim, for supporting us and being our representative, unlike many other.
Very least we should have had the opportunity. You know, as mentioned, when they tabled it, I was like, that's great. At least we have time now to regroup and, you know, and provide them more information, but I got steamrolled. So,
That's what happens when you're there alone. Anyway, yes, Meg, I did reach out to you in January, and no, Mitch has never reached back out to me to set up a meeting. He reached out to me since I worked for St. Peter's Detox to ask about some kind of a community agreement to take care of patients that they might not be able to take care of because we're obviously more clinical than they are. I told him at that time that that wasn't a decision I could make, and I kicked that over to my director. And then he has not met with me. I reached out to him and he said he didn't know when he was gonna open. And so I brought that information to you in January, hoping you'd do a little bit of due diligence. I assumed it'd be on a board meeting at some point for the community to know about and maybe some information coming forth, but there was none. I asked Don about if Fusion had been on in the last 18 months, and no, it's never been on an agenda item. So on March 30th, there was an email between Meg and Brian and Lyle about Fusion wanting to have a 24/7 facility. And in quotes, it says, I spoke from Brian, it says, I spoke with the CEO of the company today. The stayover piece of the program is years away from being a reality. Why was this never mentioned before? They obviously want to make this an inpatient program. I asked you what you thought about them being a methadone program, and I know nobody wants to use the dirty word of methadone clinic, but no program that's not going to be a methadone clinic installs 8 dispensing windows. Camino Nuevo, which is a pretty large program, has 4. Whitney Young, which is the oldest one in the area, has 2. So if you're not going to focus on dispensing medications and having around the clock turnaround of patients for meds, you wouldn't install 8 windows. I don't know what due diligence they did, but in Albany County, there's 2 OTPs in a 5-mile radius of this zip code. One is a mile away. There's another one in a 10-mile radius in Rensselaer County. There's none in Schoharie County, Greene County, Schenectady County, Saratoga County, Fulton County. There's quite a few counties that have no OTPs. So I have no idea why they wouldn't want to extend their business so they'd have multiple locations and put an OTP somewhere outside of Albany. So you would be busing less people into Albany for a 3rd OTP when there's communities that are in dire need of this service. I sent that to the Albany County, and I sent that to Oasis as a citizen, not as from my job, because this has nothing to do with my job. It just seems like they, there was the information about them. They gave you an information to reference Sunrise program. Did anybody look into the Sunrise program to see how that reflected? That was all before the April meeting. So this is all information that the board was aware of, decided not to let the community know so that we might be able to say if we're in support of it. I'm in 100% support of treatment. Have been. I've dedicated most of my adult life to it. I support an 822 program, which is what they're licensed for down the street. I'm not in support of another OTP. I don't believe Albany County needs another one, especially in a 3-square-mile village that's trying to revive itself. It's not needed. We have one 1 mile from here, Whitney Young. It operates fine. We have Camino Nuevo. Camino Nuevo opened its doors with 9 security guards. In 2019, when leadership changed, they decreased their security force from 9 to 2. You want to know when all their program issues started? 2019. They changed, they used to keep all the people inside. Then they changed operations. They closed down 2 of their meeting rooms, made them more offices. Now they didn't have overflow space for when the pumps were down. So now the patients had to wait outside. More problems. Do you think that Camino Nuevo went to Albany when they opened and said, hey, we're going to be a problem for you? No, they said, we're going to be a great citizen program and help your community. Years later, it becomes a problem. They all do. I have nothing against it. Methadone is the oldest medicine for it. I have no idea why any of the programs focus on it. There's better medicines out there. So I have no clue why any of them want the methadone except this. This is a for-profit business. In their application, they stated, we plan on making $2+ million a year. After expenses of $600,000, we have a profit margin of $1.4 million a year. up the road. You think they're doing that with outpatient counseling? No. They're doing this with med management and methadone programs. That's what their focus is going to be. And obviously their focus is going to be a 24/7 operation at some point. They wanted to buy the whole plaza from the owner of the plaza to build an outpatient facility. And I think you are all aware of it. It's clear in the 330 email that you guys knew they want to be a 24/7 operation, but it was years out. So we don't really have to talk about that right now.
First,
Because the public doesn't need to know anything.
first I heard about them buying the thing was in your email last night. I've never heard that they were buying.
I heard that from the owner's mouth, the plaza owner's mouth. He told it to me.
I never heard that.
That's great, but you did on 330, you knew they wanted to be a 24/7 operation.
And I also heard they were gonna do that off campus. So, and Steve, you're saying that you told me expecting me to go forward with the information in January. You said, I have a, huh? You said, I may be having a meeting with them next week and I'll let you know what I learned. And then I never heard anything more from you.
But Meg, shouldn't this is a year in the making. It doesn't matter that he brought it in January. This should have been open discussion for anyone.
And when you didn't hear from me and you have all this other information, you still chose not to share it with anybody. And I know you don't want a methadone program to be your legacy, but it's gonna be your legacy. And I'm sorry for that. Because you've done some good things for this village. Nobody can deny that. But this is gonna be what you're remembered for.
I don't know. I just, to me, I said it.
I know, you don't expect it to be what it's gonna turn into. But it's going to. That's what for-profit people are about. They don't care. He supposedly started this 10 years ago in Central Florida. There's no fusion recovery in Central Florida. Most of the programs he claims to have opened, you can't find a lot of detail on. Why? Because most of them are in construction or they're getting turned down. If you did due diligence, you'd find it. It took me 3 hours of Google searching to figure out most of this.
He got turned down in Madison, Georgia for zoning and he sued them.
Yeah. He's been turned down in Kentucky, Tennessee, other places in New York, New Jersey.
Still incorporated and will be paying his taxes in Florida.
It's a joke. I hate to say it, it's a joke.
So do you have a plan if it backfires? I mean, obviously they're here, right?
I'm sorry, Laura, I didn't, somebody moved it.
Obviously they're getting their final approval, is that correct?
For 822 status, which is outpatient counseling. As far as I can see, they haven't been approved and or applied for the OTP status or med management status. So I don't know if they're trying to get their foot in the doors in 822 and then do
What's
those things.
822?
822 is an outpatient counseling outfit. So they can have people come and do groups and all that, and I'm supportive of that.
I get you, Steve.
I don't know why we
My
want the
question
rest of it.
Does the board, now that we're in this mess, is there an action plan in place? What happens if they fail? Steve Reichers, our attorney, is here for the village. Does he have any input on what legal grounds we have as citizens to shut this down? I have firsthand experience of working in some of these areas, constructing crosswalks to see when they're not allowed in, when the addicts are not allowed in to get their doses timely, and literally have visually seen people banging their heads into the walls and doors to try to get in. It's a terrible thing to watch and see. So they can control everything inside the facility, but once they walk back outside, it's going to be on us. But is there an action plan? Does the board have an action plan if this facility fails to do what they said they were going to do at this last meeting? Plus give everybody free drug care for your families. Which is kind of
Yeah.
We're all going to need it.
No joking aside.
Right.
Is there an action plan in place?
In my understanding, Oasis is the governing board, just like the New York State Liquor Authority would be for a bar. If there's complaints filed with the Oasis, to my knowledge, they would be the ones that could revoke their certificates. I did reach out to, I can't remember the lady's name from Oasis, but I never got a response to clarify that.
Right. So are they non-responsive? Like, the liquor authority, you file a complaint against the bar or a doctor, they respond. I've never dealt with Oasis. I have no experience with this particular sector of the state. And
I wasn't asking, I
You
wasn't,
have someone that can do their diligence to,
Is there a plan by the board to
yeah. is there
oppose
a
this
plan?
now?
What's the plan?
I guess that'd be the question is, after all this information has come to light, would the board take a position and write a letter to our representatives that they want to oppose it? And will you take a position saying you're opposing it? Which is the only way you're gonna get this, because it has to be community effort, which is you are the community. So it clears to me that there's a lot of information that is not provided. I could see it at the meeting. But today, I think the best action for the board to take an action, to vote, to say, we need to investigate this. We need to take an action, say, stop everything before you make any further moves, Oasis. And I urge you to have your attorneys, I did at the other meeting, to investigate this person who has provided very little information to me or anybody else in the whole village, as far as I can tell, other than they read the zoning criteria. A lot of people, are we gonna have another one up the street that meets the zoning criteria? We automatically approve that over by Dunkin' Donuts? I mean, I don't know where this stops and ends. So you gotta take some responsibility here as a board to say, what's going on? This is not clear on what you said. You falsified some information. Clearly, we heard it today. Will you oppose this? That's what I think you need to do. Forget about who's running for mayor and all these other issues. We need to take a stand against this as a community. And I think they need to take it.
And that stand could even say that we support an 822 counseling program, but we cannot support the additional services that they're talking about.
Right, that's correct.
That would be a stance from the board that might help the county LGU and Oasis to maybe not allow those added pieces to come to play.
Steve, can you repeat what you said? 822 counseling program, but not the, what did you say after that?
OTP, which is opioid treatment program, or medication. Actually, even MAT can be okay, but it's MAT is where they have medication assisted therapy.
And I'd also ask that they have more disclosure on what this person's doing. Because, I mean, they didn't even give us a piece of paper at this meeting. I really was very, as I said to their lawyer from Bonchanic and King, who was present at the meeting, I said, I've never heard in my career, and I've been involved in government for now 30 years, I've never heard as bad a presentation by anybody in my lifetime. Listening to somebody present to a community about what they're doing or not doing. They didn't provide any information. They didn't answer any questions, essentially. They evaded many, many questions. It was really, it was almost disrespectful to the community of Menands, which I was very upset about.
Disrespectful. She literally said, we found a spot where, there's nothing down there but industrial buildings, warehouses, and manufacturing facilities, nothing that anybody would want to go to. She literally said that.
With someone in.
But yet she wants to lift the stigma. They want to lift the stigma of these kind of treatment facilities. They want to lift the stigma, but I guess that only counts where that, they can, put it on somebody else. Because I directly said to her, where do you live? Well, to have the next one by your house. She said, where I live is none of your business.
She was paid $100,000 for that job to weasel her way into Oasis. She used to work for him, so she knows it. So she can weasel her way in. So this guy paid her as a consultant. She won't be around anymore. $100,000 was her pay, and she was able to get this thing through.
A couple questions. One, this go through the zone or the planning board at all?
No.
Or not?
There was a use allowed by right.
Even use is allowed by right when there's projects like that go through the planning board most of the time when there's some sort of program coming in like that. It would normally go there, and I don't understand why it didn't go through the planning board, which is you guys. My second question is, do they have a CO? Is the building permit completed?
Yes.
So you can't stop it through a building permit process, holding a building permit, or holding a building permit. They have a CO already?
Yes.
Counselor, is there any method we can stop this program with?
Then why didn't it go through the planning board?
Was a question.
Yeah, the question I would have is, where does it stand with Oasis? Steve is mentioning several different aspects of licensing, which is, quite frankly, I'm not sure anybody here outside of Steve, maybe a few people, have some idea. I don't know what the difference is between A22 and OCP or whatever. But, and I'm not sure if that's something the board wants to consider.
Well, I mean, there's falsification of records versus by the letter from the state senator. That's falsification of an action. Just to begin.
I can't speak to that, whether it was a falsification, whether there was false information, or whether or not she simply,
She
withdrew it.
She withdrew it after we submitted to her that, this is not a facility that's in your district. Why did your office provide a letter of support? And she said that was our error and she rescinded it.
So where does it stand with Oasis at this point in time?
They have 3 conditions, correct? I believe that's what they said.
What type of licensing have they been approved for?
I don't know.
See, that's the.
Well, I think that's what we need legal help to address it.
For their application.
Steve, has that been approved?
Yes, LGU signed off on it in March and Oasis signed off on it, I believe, in April.
Okay. Are there any other certifications or licenses that have been
Not
approved?
that I've been able to find.
Okay. And I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm just listening to this. You're okay with the A22, but it's everything else that they're talking about potentially becoming that you have an issue with. Is that?
On the approval.
On the approval?
Yeah. Read that again.
I don't.
Kathy does a lot of.
I don't have. No, I don't.
That's okay. Right, so based on the community outreach that we've had, I don't know that there'd be any objection from the board that or I draft a letter using some of the language that Steve has just said, letting them know how this portion of the community feels about it. And
well, I think it should be a board vote to make an action. I don't think this is a community. I mean, this is not in reaction to us. This is, you have to make an action as the board to Oasis to be very clear. And I'm sure your council can write the letter that you object to this facility being in the village of Menands. That's what I would ask that you do, and take motions and take the proper action and write that letter and make it very clear as a board, you oppose this. And you also would like to investigate this person because they've provided false information as part of their prior application, which you've already approved. And I think that is just a fundamental step one in this process. Now, if they can prove that they did not falsify this information, which apparently they did, and reference other facilities which they do not own, then well, that's something. But clearly they are trying to pull the wool over our head in every way. And I can't believe that the village of Menands is responsible people as trustees here, and mayor, you have to take action. That's what my recommendation, but it's your call. You are the board, you are the trustees.
I mean, the biggest falsehood that about the 426 meeting is that when Sherry Noonan stood up and bullied her way in to asking about a second vote, she was very specific, saying that Tim was the sole opposer in all of Menands. And I wish Tim had said, I'm the only one here. There's more people that oppose it. They just weren't aware in time to be able to come.
Well, I did say people in my community are not aware. I said I'm one of the only people that's aware of this.
After Sherry said those things,
Yeah.
you didn't stand up for yourself and say, or stand up for Menands and say, I'm the only one physically here besides Brian, who didn't want to say anything. But
I could have stated it. I could have stated it another
you
way.
definitely could have
Right.
stated that, because I think that
There's a lot of things I thought
the
of later that I wish
biggest way
I'd
she
said that I
forced
did
that
not.
vote was saying it was NIMBYism and that you were the only one that objected. Right after that, they decided to call for a second vote. I watched the video like 6 times.
Yeah, she flat out said, we can't let one person
One
get in the way
person,
of this
one
project.
And so unfortunately, there was only 2 that were notified early enough to go to any meeting like that, and only one of them that has the strength to talk about it.
Excuse me. Don't do that.
I'm sorry.
You didn't talk.
Meg.
Because I was there to listen. I don't have the expertise to determine whether the license should be
Then you
granted.
shouldn't be mayor, you should be a board member.
All of this,
To make a vote for a license.
Brian's actions or
Oasis
whatever
for the
you've
state.
done is hindsight.
Yes,
Meg, whatever you've done in the past, Mayor, is hindsight. The fact is, today, we have a situation where we have a person who's provided false information to achieve a license. He's not given proper information to the village. We should take an action. You should take an action as trustees and a mayor and to investigate this situation and to write a letter as a village, as the officials of the village, that you have concerns and you're opposed to this going forward until such a time as there is information that's not false and can be verified. Because clearly something is wrong here. Not only, they have said things, and we're all for treating people that have addiction. I have no problem with that. But somebody can't come into town and say they're gonna do things and give you, it's like somebody's trying to sell you something that is not true. That is what they've done here. And I think you have a responsibility to go back and say, hold it, stop, deny the license, have it vetted with the community, which it has not been.
As Oasis, as the deciding board, wouldn't they be responsible for checking all this stuff that you're talking about instead of the village board?
But when the license, let's take a liquor license for it. If a liquor license is approved or denied, the community has a voice in that. And they go to the board and they go to Oasis and they make a complaint and they say, look, this is not the information that we understand is true. We are also opposed to this in our community. And you make that very clear to them. They take that into consideration. They may approve it anyways, but at least you've taken a stand and said how you feel about it. That's all I'm saying.
Tim, you're the one that spoke up and you're obviously opposed to this. As a board member, you have every right to make a motion right here and now and try and force a vote or what the rest of the board wants to do.
Well, I understand it, and I do plan to
Make
take
a
over,
decision.
but it's open forum right now, so we have to move into the regular portion of the meeting before and do that.
In their,
You know how that works, John. I know what you're saying.
in their
I agree.
application under provider operational performance, the question is the operational performance of this provider satisfactory? They were able to choose not applicable, as Fusion Recovery Center LLC is a new provider in Albany County system of behavioral care, and with no previous operational performance locally, the LGU has nothing to base an opinion upon and therefore cannot answer this question. So, I mean, they don't have any experience in the state of New York, but doing some due diligence about the other properties that he's talked about, I don't know how much experience they have doing it in general. And I'm only saying this because they're, like, as Tim pointed out, their website changed like 3 or 4 times.
The evening
since I
of the
first
public
saw it.
hearing, they took the information about New Jersey and Tennessee off. It disappeared.
And that's why I said they're pulling the wool over your eyes. They're telling you what they want you to hear and getting approvals for what they're gonna do, and they're gonna steamroll it later. That's what it seems like. From a community, that's what the community, and to the point of no presentation. None of us walked away with any amount of trust that they're gonna do anything. The only thing they consistently said was, we're gonna be a good neighbor. When they were challenged about their security plan, they said, we have 2 guards. Somebody said, are they armed? Well, if you want them armed, we'll hire armed guards. That's not a plan, that's backpedaling. Then they said, what about outside in the bus stop? Well, we'll have somebody monitor the bus stop. They don't have a plan. They're spitballing to appease the people in the audience who are bringing up concerns. They barely introduced themselves.
They didn't.
So can you go to Oasis so if you've had a vote amongst yourselves, the board members, to initiate an action, can't you go back to Oasis and file a formal complaint with them about the misinformation and all this other information that's not true about the Senator Henchy rescinding her letter and the support that's there, and go back to Oasis and say, we're gonna take action against you? And you have the attorneys here, right, for the village?
Against you, meaning Oasis?
Pardon me?
You said, action against you, meaning Oasis?
yes, us as a village against Oasis for allowing the vote the way it went down, word for word, everything you said.
I certainly agree that I thought it was quite extraordinary that you could take a vote and table something and then literally within 2 minutes, completely turn that around and have another vote. I even sent an email to, I believe her name is, I don't want to state the name because I can't recall, that was, running the meeting. The state was, the way you really run a meeting is that you allow the speakers to get shouted down and then you cast revotes on the fly.
Right, and you have the video.
Yeah,
And
and-
that's very powerful is the video.
And in the video, one of the members of one of the people on Oasis who were there telephonically or video, even said, they asked Sherry the question, what fallacies is Tim
She wouldn't answer.
saying? And she said, I'm not gonna get into that right now, and jumped right onto another thing, and that wasn't a red flag to Oasis. So, somebody at Oasis even had that thought. They're blaming Tim, saying the things he was spreading was false. And somebody asked what that was, and she was able to shut that down, and they just breezed right over it.
Yep.
She didn't have to answer it. So she didn't say at all what your fallacies were.
There were none.
Of course not.
She's sneaky.
Meg,
She's-
Allison, you want to talk?
Thank you very much, Don. I greatly appreciate it. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. I want to say thank you to Mr. Reed, Mr. Boulay, and there was another gentleman that spoke, and I apologize that I did not hear your name. I'm tonight was supposed to be at another meeting, but I have 2 children who have their first finals tomorrow, so I'm here with a tutor with one and me with the other. So I apologize that I'm not there, but I'm trying to stay in touch with it. I received copies of all 4 letters directly from Albany County that were provided in regard to this. This was most definitely done under false pretenses. The CEO, Mitch Bauman of Fusion Recovery, presented to the Commissioner of Albany County Department of Mental Health that the building permit, which was printed on the mayor's letterhead, which is certainly not her fault, not anybody else's fault, had the names of the board members on it. He presented that as showing that the village of Menands supported this and the board supported it. That's what he was told. Then Senator Hinchey provided this letter, which I still am aghast occurred, because having worked for representatives and being a representative, I would never write in a million years a letter supporting something that it's a high impact facility in another community, unless that other community asked me to do so. The other 2 letters were from the Capital Region Chamber of Commerce, which the first letter was from the Vice President, Tom O'Connor, in support of this. I called him multiple times, had multiple conversations. He was thoroughly unbending in his support. He said, well, we're a lobbying firm and they're members and therefore we support them. I said, well, what makes you think they're in good standing? Oh, he gave me references. I said, great. Can you please tell me who you spoke to? Well, I didn't speak to any of them, but they were all doctors. I said, okay. I Googled and found out that they were real doctors. That was the extent of that investigation. The 4th letter of support and the final letter of support was from the senior membership executive, which we to this day have not been able to elicit a response from the chamber as to whether this was a fraudulently produced letter or something that the CEO told to this woman to get her to produce it. But it basically said that he had other facilities in the area, categorically untrue, and that he was planning additional facilities in Syracuse and Rochester, which we know for a fact he was not, because he had made no application otherwise in the state of New York, with the exception of 250 Washington Avenue extension. So I do agree that this was done under false pretenses. In addition, the presentation that the CEO made, which he blamed, of course, on a internet, their web designer, which I have a hard time believing that, was two facilities that absolutely were not there. One was never even applied for. The other was withdrawn in Tennessee and New Jersey, which did not reflect in any way, shape, or form what they are. The one in New Jersey actually would have never been approved because it was in a building with a YMCA and a senior living facility and senior and family living, apartments. That would have never been approved in a million years. So I do believe that this was done under false pretenses, and I believe that that's the crux of this lies. And I do agree. Steve Boulay has spoken well. He spoke to me the other night in stating that, he has a lot of knowledge about this that I don't necessarily have. I've had to come up to speed, but certainly he still knows more. And he stated, maybe that we have to just accept the fact that this one level of facility is here. And maybe what we need to do is sort of cut our losses at this point and just try to concentrate on nothing else. But thank you very much for the time to speak. If anybody would like to see these letters, I don't know if they've been circulated or not on social media. I'm not sure, but I do have copies of them, and my personal cell phone is always on the county website. Thank you very much.
Back again to Oasis, like what, if they do this for their job, I don't know how else to say it. Don't they have their own due diligence to make sure that what's being presented to them is factual?
I'm sorry, Meg, I apologize. I just want to let you know, it's actually written into Article 32, the MHL, and of course, the rules and regulations. The LGU is supposed to be doing this, which was Albany County Department of Mental Health. And I have flat out told them, you had no right doing this without informing your county legislator and absolutely getting that municipality involved. And he depended upon these letters. And then with the Behavioral Health Services Advisory Council, they're supposed to take the recommendation of the LGU. So really, it starts with citing of a facility, and it all comes down to the Albany County Department of Mental Health, which I feel absolutely enraged by, because I am on the health committee. I am engaged with them, and how they could keep this under wraps for a full year is beyond belief to me. And I apologize to our entire community. I'm beside myself. That's all I can say. But just so you know, they're not supposed to be the ones. They get the recommendation from the LGU. Just so you know, Mayor. Thank you.
On the application and signed off by the LGU, it even states that Albany County Service Board provided neutral comment, feedback, and general support. The LGU is not aware of any other community outreach, community input, feedback, concerns, or other that letters of support listed above. So the only thing they had is the 4 letters that Allison is talking about.
Right.
The Fusion never did any outreach outside of talking to board members. And then using that and using their building permit and what have you as approval, they never did any community outreach. They sat there when you had that meeting, and I forget the date. And they said, this is our outreach. And I shouted from the back of the room, we asked for this. They didn't come to us. They didn't come to you guys and say we should set up a meeting or come to a board meeting or be on your agenda so that your community can say anything. They did none of that. They used every avenue to get around doing that in a way, as Allison was saying, to get the support and show that it's approved. So it's written right in here, signed by Dr. Giordano, that LGU is not aware of any community outreach because there wasn't any. And that's what I think we would need to be pointed out to them.
That Oasis does license these facilities, and this is the responsibility of Oasis.
Well, and then the letter will need to go to each of them, I guess.
Yeah.
I would suggest you make the letter both to the Commissioner of Oasis, to the governor, to your elected representatives. Anybody you can send it to that you as a community are not happy with the situation and you believe. I don't know what they have to do, Benny.
They're a lot like, a lobby group, they're a lobby group, but.
But I'm just saying, I think if there has been, misappropriation, if there's been falsehoods put forward here, I think they should be clearly stated. I think that they were given the license with not your approval, with false documents. The building permit is not an approval from the local community. I mean, that is just on its face wrong.
Brett, what did you say again? Because I was distracted by you.
I said that Oasis is the one that licenses these facilities and they continue to do that. They continue to monitor them, so that's in their purview.
So Brett, in the event that, for instance, the site does not meet the standards, sorry.
We can't hear you.
Sorry. In the event that the facility does not meet the standards that is expected of them, the recourse and will be what? And to who?
Oasis has a licensing bureau, so it would go to them and they continue to monitor it. So they will do site visits and they'll do audits and they'll do all of that. And they have to continue to relicense them. And then if any issues come up here, it would go to Oasis. So if someone needed to report something, it would go to Oasis.
So for instance, if there is repeated activity that is inconsistent with a safe operating plan noted by either the police, the public, or whomever, those repeated incidents will be noted to either Albany County, Oasis, and those will potentially put their license in jeopardy.
It would go,
Let's stop it before
it would go to, I mean, you could go to Albany County, but it should go to Oasis. That's where the direct route is to Oasis.
So, but what happens in their facility may be okay, but what's happening in the community around, that is, Oasis may take that into consideration, but that's not a violation of their license. It's what's happening around.
Well, I would think it would all have impact, wouldn't you?
No.
No.
Not working in government, no.
Look what happened in here. What's happened in Albany?
Mayor Sheehan has been trying to encourage Oasis to relocate to Mina on the Rainbow because of the problems on Central Avenue. And it has been unsuccessful since 2019. So as soon as they get whatever levels, that's why I'm saying right now, I'm a supporter of treatment. 822 is a great level of care, counseling programs, great. It usually doesn't have outside of the building problems that a methadone clinic would have. So if we can get the Oasis and the LGU to reconsider maybe the other advancements of the levels of care that they're talking about, that to me is important because you can already see Albany has struggled for 4 years trying to encourage Oasis to find a different location for Camino Nuevo. It's been in the news, it's on Spectrum, it's been in the Times Union, it's been on WNYT, and they have failed at that.
Is it methadone or is it like other things?
Morphine is a great drug because it has a fail-safe in it where if people use after being medicated, they get ill. Methadone, no, they can still go out and use on top of the methadone and overdose and have problems. And I asked Fusion when they were here what their plan was with medication. They said that their patients will only receive medication in the building, but they're only open 6 days a week. And methadone is an everyday dosing medication. And I said, so are they going to have take-home doses on Sunday? And they didn't answer that. No, they didn't.
She did answer that to me privately leaving, because I confronted her going downstairs. And I said, because the other lady had brought up about living in an area where they were selling the methadone, the take-home doses. That's why she wouldn't answer my question, because it was already brought up. And she said, yes, they were sending home take-home doses. Word for word what Ms. Newman had said.
When I asked that same question, I was told that the medication goes into a cup And there, I don't know if this can make sense to you, but there's a line in it. They have to use their cell phone to take it, so they can't sell it to somebody else. There's some kind of line that shows that they did take it. They bring the cup back. Any of that sound familiar, Steve?
Yes, it does, yeah, but that doesn't prevent people from doing it. There's ways around all of that stuff. And that's why if you talk to the other methadone programs, there are some patients that are gonna be problematic. And I'm not saying that all of their patients are gonna be problematic. I'm not saying that it's a risk. And I don't think our community police force is ready. I don't think our emergency services people are ready. I obviously know Fusion's not ready because their security plan was pretty weak. And every time it was challenged, they backpedaled and said they would add something. And that's not a plan. That's a scratching my head and thinking, how do I appease these people that are angry right now?
And the precedent has been set with Camino Nuevo. If something goes wrong, too bad for you.
Yeah.
They haven't been closed. Like when I talked to the chief here recently, you know, he's saying if there's a problem down at the local pub, he can walk in there, he can take a license off the wall, and they're done. If there's a problem over here at Fusion, he doesn't even know what to do. And that's through no fault of his own, but there's no plan.
You have no control over it.
How long is the license good for with Oasis? Like,
Well, if they're a brand new program, it's probably a
5,
year,
2,
maybe.
1, 3,
It's usually a conditional, a new program might get a year.
1 year?
And then, you know, they have to come back and recertify. And then from there, depending on how they score on the tool, the investigation tool, they could get another year, 2 or 3.
So it took Mayor Sheehan from 2019 to now, with each year of that facility getting a renewal, and she still can't get the facility moved.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Don, is it okay if I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Toss it on in. So I just want to answer one of the questions, which was, yes, Oasis is the ultimate regulatory authority. However, that process, as we have found, starts with that LGU at the Albany County Department of Mental Health. Once it's like, you know, once that ball starts rolling, once they check that tiny little box that says approve, it's over. Additionally, the CEO, Mr. Bauman, who I did contact a few times and did speak to him a few times, then he stopped taking my calls. Ms. Noonan, who I got a hold of her personal cell phone, never took my calls. So that point of communication is incorrect. The fact is that he told me, oh, well, Camino Nuevo, their medical director got arrested for exchanging intimacies for opioid prescriptions. Notice they're not shut down. So once these things open, it's over. Unless you can pay or get the state of New York to pay to build out a new facility for them, physically pick them up and put them in a new place, you cannot get them shut down. And I have this knowledge from multiple other facilities located downstate where once one opens up, all of a sudden they start coming. The reason is they found a location that does not have a tightened up zoning code. So the city of Albany, after this disaster that happened down on Central Avenue, did tighten up their zoning code. And I'm not blaming anyone. Who saw this coming? I am sure nobody did. What we need to do is create a definition for controlled dispensary, controlled substance dispensary for the treatment of, substance use disorder, and put in parameters such as must be 1,500 feet away from a school, must be 500 feet away from a residential neighborhood, something to that extent. It's what I'm requesting. I think it would be very helpful to ensure that this never happens again. Thank you so much.
There's one more. Monica?
Hey guys, so I have a question about I think Allison, you mentioned safety. Like I said this at the first board meeting, like not the first board meeting, but the meeting that we had I think like a week ago. I'm just really concerned about what Menands is gonna look like. And do we know what if they do get approved, when the opening date would be? This is like months later. Like how fast is this gonna happen?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't even know if they're done. There's still the National Grid stuff down there, so I don't even think they could open if they wanted
It's
to.
not on their website. They don't even have hours of operation on their website.
That actually,
So we don't know an open date at all? We don't know anything?
I heard through the grapevine they planned on opening a soft opening in May and a full opening in June, but here we are in June and nobody knows.
and can they legally open with the parking situation being what it is?
Not to my knowledge.
Can the building be red tagged?
I know Lyle is working with them on the parking situation.
But can it be red tagged until parking situation is resolved to make sure that there isn't a soft opening? Just because what are you gonna do once they're open, they're open?
Yeah, just so we can get our ducks in a row and send letters and, you know.
I'm not sure I know a little bit about the parking on it because I've seen a couple of the emails with Lyle. I'm not sure if that parking situation would fall into the realm of red tagging, but I think it would fall within the realm of, it was a temporary CO that was issued. I don't think there's a final CO that's been issued. Is that right?
I thought it was a CO with, what do you call it?
With conditions.
Conditions.
Okay, I haven't seen that, but if there's an issue with the parking, they're not
The
gonna,
parking was one of those conditions.
yeah, they're not gonna get a CO.
Can you change your zoning law now?
Without
so
the
they
parking being addressed.
Can you change your zoning law now to prevent the methadone dispensing at the location pending approval by the local board?
I think that, I mean, would they be, I'm assuming your question is, could we develop and pass a local law which would restrict the activities that they're looking to do, which is not doing or whatever?
Can anybody hear me? It's Lyle.
Hold on just a second, Lyle.
Okay.
I don't know the immediate answer to that, but I think the potential challenge that the application at a point in time when it was X, now you've changed it. I think there's a possible legal challenge. It seems to me, based on what you're talking about, there are some aspects of this which are possibly acceptable of the type of business that they're running, and other aspects of it which the community feels or might feel are unacceptable. And with that in mind, you know, the board doesn't keep any resident from submitting a letter to Oasis or Albany County. But, you know, the board can decide whether or not to pass a resolution to address those issues and to address what some may consider to be major misrepresentations that have been made in the context of your application.
Could you do everything, the latter you just talked about, but you could also actually change the zoning law now and then face litigation. But you would also have some ground to stand on, prohibit them from dispensing methadone. I mean, even if you lose, at least have it. That's all I'm saying. Because I think eight methadone dispensing sites in our village. I mean, it's like 5 times what they do downtown in Albany. And it's going to be a really bad situation for the village of Menands.
I'm not saying it couldn't be done.
I'm just saying I would suggest you do.
I'm just saying to you, the potential, you know, potholes along the way.
Understood.
But I'm not saying it can't be done.
I would agree with the counselor. I'm just saying I would recommend you do both.
Yeah.
If you,
Well,
that's up to you.
Yeah.
This is, my son wanted to know if somebody parked in our driveway, and they did. Just make sure they don't, like, they would know that it was okay for Brett to park. No, you're good. Just don't let the guys, my husband called the police, so don't let them tow the car.
I just wanted to say something quick to Monica's point. I have been very carefully monitoring all the job sites where Fusion Recovery has been hiring. And I also talked to Mr. Bauman about what his plans for security were. He told me he was going to go to the Village of Menands Police and hire off-duty police officers. I do not know if that has happened or not. So that he could have armed guards, you have to be an off-duty police officer, I believe, to be an armed guard. I may be incorrect, but it's my understanding that that's the case. And they're only hiring for 3 things. And it's on Indeed.com. They're not on any of the others. It's for a nurse practitioner so that that person, a nurse practitioner, is able to prescribe under a doctor's, license. And then they were hiring for a KSAC, which is, like a counselor, et cetera. Steve knows very well what that is. And then for a behavioral health therapist, $16 to $18 an hour or something, enormously underpaid. There was nothing included related to security. So again, being that this is a for-profit facility, I have significant questions as to whether or not they are true to their word on ensuring, especially the people that live right behind it. When Mr. Bauman told me the reason he chose this facility and this location was that it was on a bus line, it's on a commercial, in a strip mall in a commercial area, and then said to me, there's no residential homes around it at all. And I said, they're 30 feet behind you. And he had nothing to say about that.
All right, Lyle, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to clear up a couple of ongoing issues with the parking. This has been an issue. Obviously, everybody drives by and you can see that the mess that it is. But I just, and it was one of the stipulations in order to operate. However, I mean, like Chuck touch base upon, I'm not so sure a red tag would be awful extreme. I did touch base and I got assured through Mitch and Nick, I forgot his last name. He's the owner of the building. So Mitch, who owns Fusion Recovery, that the parking lot would be cleaned up. I also mandated through with discussions with Meg Malone, who represents the property owner, and the property owner is in the process of hiring, or already did hire, Hirschberg and Hirschberg to make sure that that there's enough parking for the use classification, not only that business but other businesses. And my biggest concern right now, and it will be mandated, is that area where National Grid is be cleaned up just for emergency fire apparatus and all that stuff. So I was assured as of today that it would be addressed.
So, I'm gonna try to reach out to Oasis again. I'm gonna do more. I did it by email. I didn't get a response. I'll try it by phone call next. If the board doesn't have any concerns with me doing this, I will draft a letter sharing comments from the community. This to me was a much easier platform because people are just talking, nobody's screaming at each other. So it's made it much easier for me to comprehend everything that's being said. And I appreciate that from all of you sitting here.
I guess I would urge you, Meg, as a board, to make a decision to write to Oasis and others that you object to this being licensed and operating in Menands, one. And I think I would also urge you, second, to change immediately your zoning regulations so you can prohibit this from actually happening and vote in that regard, because that's the only way you're going to control the situation. Because right now, you can pretty much have anybody come into Menands, and wherever you want to do, they could come left to right. We can have another dispensary of methadone, so to speak. And that's exactly what you're laying yourself out to. And maybe this facility in Albany will now move here, because welcome to Menands, because we don't even have to talk to the village board trustees even on this issue. So I find, one, this person has falsified information to us in their application. Two, they did not even give the decency to really have a conversation with anybody in the village. And now you're going to write a letter to them. Forget about the letter. Take action. Take action against this. as a board, please do, as a citizen, I beg you, or it's going to be terrible for this village. The property value is going to drop exponentially. That man had nothing to say. They drop like 20% in these situations. So God help us all. And God help the police department and what they're going to have to deal with. And they are overwhelmed to begin with now. So what are we doing? We have a sewage system in our village. We have a homeless situation in our village. Okay, we help. Okay, we help in the Menands. We take care of people. But this is over the top. We don't have the resources. You know, I can't imagine what's going to happen to this village in that situation, and what we're all going to have to pay because of it, both in crime and in cost, in terms of all kinds of things. So I would beg you to take action now, not just write a letter. Take an action of the board, take an action of the zoning, and make an effort here, because this is going to be bad for this village, which I haven't been here my whole lifetime. Only been here about 10 years, but I would say it's a great place. I would love it to stay a great place, but this is not how it's going to stay a great place.
I'm not sure, but I'm gonna put you on the spot, Matt. Is changing zoning in the middle of a project, that never was my understanding of something that could be done.
They could be grandfathered in under the project because of that. But moving forward, tomorrow, you can have 5 applications on in your building department for the areas down in South.
I thought he meant, let's do it to stop this project.
No,
It's the best you can. You're going to get sued, but it's okay.
There's another piece to this as well. I don't know what they have been approved for or not approved for, and what the village has authorized outside of as I understand it, a medical clinic. So it doesn't necessarily mean, and I'm speaking off the top of my head right now without researching it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you couldn't pass some form of zoning, if it's permissible, to do this type of thing, to restrict the type of clinics that can be cited, and let the chips fall where they may, because we haven't, the village has not authorized, I'll use the term methadone clinic.
Yeah, see, they got in, and I agree with the point. They got the building permit under medical office. What the city of Albany has is a definition for controlled substance distribution facility. And, then
That's very broad.
Well, medical office is the broad one.
Methadone is the word, so.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, this is the definition under the zoning. You can go.
While we have Lyle if it's a temporary CO or if it's CO with contingencies? And what the other.
Can I finish what I'm saying first?
Well, that might be able to stop it. If they don't have a CO, then this. Yeah.
So,
All right, go ahead, Tim.
okay. So just to add a definition for zoning that can be referred to in these circumstances, and you know, applying some kind of restrictions on those facilities that would help us. I mean, that's just, you know, one small thing. I mean, but that's what the city of Albany did. So
Could the board, regardless of the zoning and the enormous time that it takes to get that through all the channels that it does, can the board itself put a moratorium on any medical clinic that is methadone related as a stopgap measure until the zoning can be addressed in due course?
I do not believe that would be a local law, so a public hearing would not be required. I don't think. I think you're going to do it by resolution. Give that a shot, and then if you want to do it, I'm not telling you what to do, but do that tonight, and then it'll give me a chance to take a look to see whether or not a local law would be required, which would require a public hearing, which would require notice requirements. Even once passed, it would have to be a period of time. We did this a number of years ago with there was concern regarding adult entertainment facilities. There was a moratorium that was placed.
Did the village have a moratorium on auto related as well?
There was a moratorium on auto related as well on the Broadway corridor. That's right.
Only 1 year you're allowed to do that, I think.
They didn't extend it. That's what I did with developing.
I think the village actually extended it. We did, because we had that, it was the Broadway corridor, the plan was being put together. And the whole idea was before we end up with used car lots all the way up and down Broadway, there was a moratorium that was passed.
Lyle, did you hear Molly's question?
I did. Was it the certificate of occupancy?
Yes.
Yes, a temporary certificate of occupancy was originally released to them, and then about 4 weeks ago, I'm not really sure, but the date, a certificate of occupancy was issued to the building to close out the permit. The one thing I because they're totally compliant inside with many inspections, all third parties, all life and safety, all, the plumbing, the construction, the electric and all that stuff. The entire fit up is complete. With the stipulation of the park. Okay. Well, like we touched upon before. The only thing I feel funny about, and if I had any idea that it was going to come to this, and it was in the zoning. The reason why I released the zoning verification letter was because it was zone compliant with the Broadway Business District. And this was our old zoning code, which was Chapter 169, Section A, Section B, and it wasn't a medical office, it was a medical clinic. It was dental and medical clinics were allowed and permitted use by right. So an SUP and site plan and ZBA didn't even come about. But but if I had any idea that it would come to fruition like this, I feel God, I feel awful guilty about not knowing, and perhaps it was a little bit naive on my part, but as far as I've seen and as far as the details that they sent me, it was a legit type of thing, and through, especially when it was licensed and sanctioned through New York State. The second thing I'd like to touch upon is when I sent out that zoning verification letter, it's our letterhead. It's a letterhead that I was trained to use, and it's a letterhead that I use no matter what type of letter sent out, whether it's a letter of complaint, whether it's a letter attached with an NOV, whether it's a zoning verification letter, whether it's attached to a building permit. It's just a letterhead that states the board members. I think our attorney, Steve Reifus, the clerk, Johnny, and then of course the mayor, Meg. But that letter that I sent out, it wasn't signed by anybody. It was signed by me. It was signed by me as the building department. So for somebody to say, and it also says the Village of Menands, that doesn't necessarily mean the Village of Menands just, welcome them with open arms and approved what was going on. So for them to look at a letterhead and say, well, look at the letterhead, everybody approved. That is just like really pushing the envelope as far as not being very truthful and really taking advantage and grasping at straws, if you ask me. You know what I mean? So, but I just want to make it very clear, there was only one signature on that letter, and it was mine from the building department. But the names are on that letterhead, just in a generic type of, that's our letterhead. That's what I use, So I just wanted to make it clear.
Okay, can I jump in here? Because I see a familiar name up on the board there, which would be Tracy Collins from Oasis. So we have somebody from Oasis that's joined the call. I'd certainly like to thank Tracy for being here. And I'm wondering if Tracy would be willing to answer some questions.
Excuse me, Josh, can I just ask Lyle one more final question, and we can close that out about the building permits?
Well, we've got Oasis up on the board.
Lyle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So you said to us about third-party inspections in the building. Were those third-party inspections done by the people that are occupying the building or by someone we hired?
Oh, no, we don't hire anybody. There's mandated third-party inspections in the Village of Menands, just like other municipalities. For instance, it's like a special inspection. So it's somebody outside who's certified to do the inspections. For instance, a fire alarm system, they'll do their own.
Paid by Fusion, correct? Paid by the building owner or the tenant, correct?
I'm sorry? Yeah.
Paid by Fusion or the building owner, correct?
Right. It's just part of the process. They would have to be paid by whoever the applicant was. And the applicant in this situation was the owner of the building. In other words, electrical inspections we do not do. And there's only a couple of municipalities that do it in the Capital District, the larger ones like Albany and Troy. that do it independent. And other than that, we rely on third parties, which are, and then we have a list of certified electrical inspectors that are allowed in the village and in Menands and the town of Colony.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so Tracy Collins is the Associate Commissioner of Oasis, so certainly appreciate having Tracy here. And I think the biggest concern that we have, Tracy, is this. It's that we feel that Fusion has gotten their authorization from you under false pretenses. And as part of the certification, there are a couple of important components, one being community support, which I think you can see that there isn't the kind of community support here that I would think would warrant being known as community support. Also a need basis, and Steve can talk more about the need part of it than I can. The specific concerns that I have at the approval process, there was one, a letter from Senator Hinchy was used as a reference. And that letter was used at the certification meeting on April 26th. However, Hinchy's office rescinded that letter on April 3rd. So that was a misrepresentation. Also at that meeting, the former commissioner of Oasis, Sherry Noonan, had said that the mayor of Menands was in support of the project. Mayor, as mayor, you were not officially in support of the project. Is that correct?
I was never asked.
So she was saying that the mayor was in support of it. She never gave her support. That leaves us with two other recommendations, both being from the Chamber of Commerce. One which has been verified. When I spoke to the person that wrote the letter, he told me that the chamber is a lobbying organization, so of course they're going to write a letter of recommendation and support for one of their members. That's what they do. And the other letter, there's some question as to the veracity of it, if it wasn't something that was just dictated by Fusion. So I think that lack of community support, as well as the falsification of support on the behalf of Fusion, has us as a community really concerned. If they're cutting corners here, what does that mean for the future of the operation itself?
Tracy?
Well, I sure hope Tracy's there.
I'm on, but I'm not on. I actually have not even heard any of the discussion because I just had somebody at my door, and I'm really not here to answer questions. I was just listening to the conversation. So I actually, other than you say my name, I apologize. I didn't hear most of the conversation, but you'd have to send us questions if you want more information, and we could get back to you. But this has already gone through process, so I'm not really sure what the question is at this point.
The fact that the authorization was given us.
If someone is talking, I can't hear you at all.
Why don't you step up, Chuck, and maybe she can hear you better.
Where's the? Okay, so can you hear me now, Tracy?
I can hear you.
Okay. So basically my concern and point is this. I understand that there's a process and it's gone through the process, and I've sent a number of emails to you, as well as some of your colleagues at Oasis, with some of the concerns that we as a community have as to the approval process and what went down. There's a couple of key components in the approval process. One of those components being a need, and my colleague Steve could talk better about the need, but where we have the biggest hangup is the fact that it was falsely represented by Fusion to Oasis that there was community support for this. One of those methods of community support was a letter of recommendation from Senator Hinchey. And that was presented at the certification meeting as being a valid letter, which had actually been rescinded 23 days earlier. So that letter isn't valid. Another letter that they stood on was one from the Chamber of Commerce. And when I reached out to the Chamber of Commerce and asked them how they arrived at giving their support, they told me that they're a lobbying organization and they will lobby for any of their members. So as long as they're paying their dues, they're going to get a letter of recommendation. Another thing that was maintained was that the mayor of Menands was in support of the Fusion project. She was not really in support of the project. No one ever spoke to her about it. There was a letter with the board's letterhead saying that the village board was in support of the project. They're not in support of the project. So the fact that this authorization was given on the false pretense that there's community support is very concerning to us, and we want to know what recourse we have.
First of all, I will just say, you're speaking on behalf of people that you are speaking on behalf of others. So first of all, I would have to find out if what you're saying is accurate. Second of all, a letter from Senator Hinchey is not required as part of the application. I would have to go back and see what the notification was. What I know is that they went through a process, which is a lengthy process that was deemed appropriate, and they were given approval. That's what I can tell you. That's what I know. As far as you making assertions, and I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying that I don't know about what you're asserting on behalf of other people. That would have to be looked into. I just can't answer to that. It wouldn't be fair for me to do so.
Fair enough. So if you could just, yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree that you can't speak on things that you don't have direct knowledge of and may or may not be true. They're true, but you have no way of knowing that. The one question I do have that I hope that you can answer is this. We know that they have contingent approval for an 822 program. Have they submitted a proposal for an OTP program? And if so, where does that stand in the process?
All that I'm aware of is the application for the outpatient clinic that was approved. I have no knowledge of any other requests or applications for other services.
Okay, so at this point, you're not aware of any OTP?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll tell you what, from what I've heard here and what I reported about the meeting, I think you guys should consider revoking the CO based on what you perceive or what we perceive as a lack of misinformation or outright falsehoods. Revoke the CEO, make them come back, make OC or whoever they are, OSHA, Oasis, or whoever they are, and get to the details of this thing. And I think that would be one of your recourses. Just revoke that CO. That way they can't go into that building until these issues are resolved. Until I think you would act as a board, somehow addressing what you've heard tonight. Officially as a board.
Revoking a CO on what grounds?
Pardon me?
What would be the grounds to revoke?
They've gotten a CO from the building department on some sort of understanding of what this operation was going to be. And apparently it's not, or they've given you false information to get the approval from their board. And you guys should be the ones to make this call. Revoke that CO and make them work for it.
So I appreciate that you've done this.
it really has been helpful because it is dialogue, and I think everybody is understanding that this is a challenge for the village and the community. You've heard from the state how it works. It goes a little bit slowly, and we have to prove, we have to prove, we have to prove. I think we need to figure out, and I hope you all will figure out, how to take steps to protect the village, to protect the community, and deal with whatever comes from fusion recovery down the line. Because if something untoward happens, if we have a problem that for some reason we can't prevent, the state's not going to come in and fix it. It's going to be for the community to fix. And I would imagine community members, if there's something, somebody's harmed or there's a problem, they're going to go back at the village too. It's not just going to be fusion recovery. So it's circle the wagons, but let's circle the wagons and protect the village and just take action. I mean, we can talk about what the state's going to do or what they're not going to do, but the process is very structured. They have laws, they have regulations that will protect the people who have received certification first and foremost, before they will protect the community of the located there. And I mean, we spent a lot of time doing this and talking about this, but we're going to keep going in the same circle. So it would be great to figure out, and we sitting here can't figure out how to change a CO or what the resolution is going to read to best protect the village. But that's something that the board, the trustees, the mayor, council, and your consultants need to do, and it would be good to move that forward.
Go ahead. Two questions. The first one, did they give the police department any written security plan? And if they didn't, could they put something in writing for you? You do what to expect. Are we going to see an armed guard by the police by the bus station on a daily basis when they're open? If we don't see one, should we call you and let you know that there's not one there just in case?
They didn't give us any.
Can we ask them for a written recommendation of security plan? Do they tell us anytime? This is a fair request. On your, could you say to them, please? I'd like to know what you plan to do other than what you stated in the last meeting.
When I spoke to him, it was, they'll do anything. So.
Get something in writing from them and then share it with the community.
Sure.
But of course, they could change it.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. That's the right.
You know, and I don't know if what he's saying is true. He didn't give me anything.
There needs to be something.
Yeah.
All right, so a couple things, thoughts of mine are, I like the idea of Brian of doing a moratorium and doing that tonight. That'll at least protect us as we move forward to try to get some ideas, you know, for the future. As far as revoking the CO, I wouldn't recommend we look into that until we look into it. I don't want to be making any decisions here tonight that may be illegal or whatever. So that, for me personally, I wouldn't want to do that right now until we have a chance to look into it further.
You would not need a board resolution to do that. That's something that could be issued by the building department. The question is whether or not there are grounds for it. No, revocation of the CO. But that's something I can talk with Lyle about.
But we don't need a public hearing to put a moratorium on this?
No, what I've said is, let's do a resolution. I'm not telling the board what to do.
No.
But the board can pass a resolution tonight establishing a moratorium for methadone clinics within the village of Menands. We set a reasonable time frame, a year, 2 year, whatever the case may be.
Would this site though, Steve, be grandfathered, or would this only be for future?
The position that we would take, let Fusion come at the village if they decide that they want to set up a methadone clinic.
No. They haven't applied for that necessarily yet. And so therefore, you can absolutely do it. I don't agree with the moratorium. What you should be doing is passing some zoning to immediately address the situation.
Nice, we can do this tonight.
That's what we're establishing is a stopgap or a bridge to get us to the point of preparing and passing zoning that would address this issue. That's, as you know, that's not something that can happen overnight. That's something that requires public hearings, requires notices, and even once it's passed, you usually have a 60 period.
Well, there was also the fact that this building permit, to Lyle's credit, he did what he was supposed to do. However, municipalities break the law all the time. And that is what we have insurance for.
What?
Moving forward.
All right. John, can you do me a favor? Can you look back the minutes from
Like what the board is talking
it's gotta be 7 or 8 years ago about the moratorium that we had for auto dealerships on Broadway corner? I want to see how we did it at that point. Okay. I don't think it was a local law. I think it was a resolution. But I just want to make sure we're getting our ducks in a row, so we're doing it correctly. Okay.
All right, so again, I appreciate everyone being here tonight, sharing calmly your suggestions, your concerns. Fuck up.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Did you want to say one last thing?
Yeah, I have one last thing. So aside from the moratorium, I think if the board really has objections to the misrepresentation of this clinic and fusion, and you feel that you need to contact Oasis about it, I think that Ms. Collins' point was to have whatever points you have in writing to Oasis and have them respond that way, so that if in fact these are reasons to disavow or to say that you are going to challenge their right to do this, and Oasis feels that that is appropriate and fair, and at least you'll know from the get-go that this moratorium, aside from being a stopgap, then you will have reason for, the final termination of the project, if the board feels that way. Does that make sense to you?
All right, so
Just one quick thing. Does the board all feel this way? I know that there was a different sense previously as to whether or not this should go forward. Is there a consensus on the board? Do you plan on taking a poll tonight as to who is on board with shutting this thing down, or at least holding it steady?
So the comment you made earlier about, I wasn't in support of it. I was never approached as mayor, but as you know, because I talked to you about it at the last meeting.
You weren't officially as mayor in support of it.
Right.
Right.
And
And that's what I meant to convey. I
there are a lot of
apologize if
personal
that
reasons
wasn't done
that
that way.
I relayed at that meeting, which I still feel that way.
Mhm.
If it's a program that can save lives, that I support. But having now heard various other things that I feel the way Tracy does, that I need to verify these things without just taking people's words for it. So like I've changed my full support of it, but I have reservations about it now.
Seth, how do the two other members on the board feel? Because we haven't heard anything from Seth or Diane about that. I mean, where have you stood on this?
I want to look into the same issues that everybody else has.
But over the past year, have you heard about this and thought this was a good idea for Menands?
I haven't had enough information to know.
Can you at least speak on your thoughts thus far?
Yeah, it's been like radio silence.
I can't speak on it thus far because we have to find out the information. There's been a lot of misinformation. There may be misinformation. That's why I want to look into it. I want these points put out in writing, the things that were brought up here tonight. Many valid points were put out there. I'd like to hear their response and make my decision based on that.
Would you support a moratorium?
We don't have a lot of.
Yeah, support a moratorium. I do want to make sure that moratorium is legal, but absolutely I'd support the moratorium.
How about you, Brian?
Yeah, Diane?
I
How about
agree.
you?
Look, you know, some of the things that have been lobbed at me, accusations about that I was involved in the real estate or had anything to do with them coming here are absolutely flat out lies.
I haven't heard any of that.
I haven't either.
It's all over,
First time I've
it's
heard.
all over Facebook. People saying that I got kickbacks and all sorts of illegal things, which
And
are
that's
absolutely,
coming from,
No, not Facebook.
me.
absolutely.
I
I'm not
stand by
saying,
what
I'm
I
just saying
said
it.
to you, Brian, about Facebook. I mean, I've looked at this, and let me be honest, you were running for mayor. You were asking the residents to elevate you into a mayor to lead this community. And you served as a trustee for 4 years. There's nothing in here about the residents. Everyone read this. There is absolutely nothing that talks about the community, the people of this community.
All right,
It's just all about me, and what I've done.
all right.
I stand
All
by
right,
what I've said.
now we're making this a political issue. We're not here to talk about the politics of it. That's for the
I
voters.
was asked about my stance about a moratorium, and I would absolutely agree. This is not something that was in our zoning. No one would have thought that this would come under the auspices of medical offices, medical clinics, or professional offices. No one would have. And here it is. So we have to take action to figure out how to prevent it in the future. And I agree with that. Absolutely.
And to stop this.
Well, how about this particular project? They've got approval for the 822. And there's some support in this room for the 822. And I don't know how I feel about the 822. So do you think that it makes sense to hold the line at an 822, or are you in favor of the OTP?
I think that we need to explore what legal options are available to us at this point in their process. What points can be reversed and what cannot. I don't know the answer to that.
Let's take the legal part out of it, because we have a smart lawyer here. All right, we're going to count on this smart guy to figure it out. Okay, so now that we've figured it out, and there is a way to put a ceiling on this, are you in favor of are you in favor of going to Oasis and saying, we don't want this OTP here in Menands?
Steve, can you tell me again, 822, tell me the difference between the two?
To my knowledge, 822 is an outpatient counseling program. Company I work for has those throughout the community. It has groups and individual sessions. Some of them have a medical provider who can continue prescribing certain medications under their license, or medication assisted treatment, if that's what they have.
So you would be in favor of a medically assisted treatment program?
Yeah, they would continue medications
So
like
any doctor can prescribe any of those medications, does not have to even require special approval.
They need special requirements to prescribe methadone.
That's correct.
For withdrawal or for treatment. But as far as I'm aware, the federal government passed the regulation so that any physician can prescribe Suboxone, buprenorphine products. Right?
Vivitrol.
So then what elevates it to the OTP?
Utilizing methadone.
Just methadone, that's the whole component of it?
That would give them the options of using everything. As far as as the knowledge that I have. I don't have that in the company I work for. I don't have an OTP, so I don't know all the regulations about that piece of it. But the OTPs in the area utilize methadone. Conifer Park, Whitney Young, Camino Nuevo, St. Mary's in Amsterdam, they're all OTP statuses and they all utilize methadone.
But it was just an 822?
An 822 by itself should just be a counseling program.
Oh, but no
An
medication.
outpatient counseling program. I believe that they have to have another level if they want MAT status, which is medication assisted therapy. On top of the 822, if I remember correctly, they had to do like an adjunct to their license. It was basically a summary of how they were gonna operate for that, and they could add that on to their 822.
Can an 822 dispense methadone?
Without an OTP, I don't believe so.
So that's the difference between A22 and OTP is the dispensing.
Yes.
And they have not applied for that, they've not been approved for that.
But they can dispense other drugs?
As far as I know, if they're under an MAT status, they would do prescribe it. And a patient would go and pick up their Suboxone or buprenorphine at a pharmacy.
And there are doctors that are licensed to prescribe that primary care settings as well.
Yeah, and actually, they don't have to have that extra license anymore. They don't need the X waiver federally anymore. Any physician can prescribe buprenorphine there.
So you're not opposed to the other drugs you've been speaking about. It's the methadone portion of this that you're concerned about.
We're also not excited about the way he went about this, and all the lying.
The lack of trust from the presentation or lack thereof of the presentation, and in the amount of due diligence I've done, just trying to research what he claims he has done or was on his website before he changed it. I'm just afraid that this is a for-profit program that has no thought about the community. And I don't want to say they don't care about their patient population, but they're for profit. They specifically stated how much money they're going to make. I don't, it just doesn't give a good feel. And like I said, when they were backpedaling on their security plan and on their operations and skipping and not answering questions, including when you watch the video from the 426 meeting where they got the second vote. Somebody asked them, what fallacies is Tim speaking of? And they said, I don't want to get into that right now. And they just moved on to something else. I mean, it just doesn't give you a trusting feeling.
What I'm hearing is that there is a lot of mistrust of Fusion and this particular Mitch and their whole operation. So if that's the issue, as opposed to the 822 or anything else, I think that that's going to be raised to Oasis. The misstatements, the misrepresentation issue would be the way to go. If in fact that this group here has persuaded the board that that's the main point. I think there've been a lot of issues that have been discussed and are turning into a ball of wax, and I think it has to be separated out. And I think what I'm hearing is that the misrepresentation issue is the one that you have to go with.
All right. Are we good with moving on, or because we're still in open forum?
You're gonna discuss that later, everything we've talked about in your executive
Yeah,
session.
you can only motion in regular session, yeah.
Did you have something
Well, I got several items, but I've decided I'm gonna give that to John.
We already have them, Bill.
Thank you. Spend much time.
Can I have a copy, Bill? My printer's out of ink. Can I have a copy, Bill? My printer's out of ink.
I don't have a copy.
Here, I'll get you a copy.
We'll get you a copy. How's that? I had,
on a moratorium?
but I'm urging you to, let's have this moratorium. Do this.
I already got, give us a snap. I already have it here.
Thank you, Bill.
Will that go on the record?
It's already on the record.
And I just spend more time.
No problem.
Thanks.
Sure.
It's
What about the letter?
Yeah. I do want to address the letter with all these concerns. I've already gotten this
No, I'm not saying it. Yes, just as Mrs. Herrick said.
So in light of the community's input on the Fusion Recovery Program at 444 Broadway, I will therefore motion that the Village of Menands hereby issues a moratorium on any medical activity of distributing, dispensing controlled substances, including but not limited to methadone.
Second.
Hold on. Did you do all that?
No, but I'll get it up to date.
Okay, so we have a motion, somebody seconded.
And do we have to state the period, Steve?
Okay,
Period of 1 year.
yes, you need to.
1 year.
Renewable, upon consent of, or extension of the
Is
board.
it renewable?
Renewable or extended by vote of the board.
Yeah. it would
The
be-
whole idea is to take a look, to see whether or not we can,
No, I get you. I just
we
didn't
can
know if
pass
it
a
was
local law.
renewable in case something took longer than a year.
Yeah.
Extendable.
Sure.
Diane, you second.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Good. I appreciate it. We all do. How long is monitoring the last?
1 year. 1 year with a possibility of extension.
I don't, well, let's wait and see what's gonna happen 1 year from now.
Okay, I don't,
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, okay. I'd also like to make a motion to issue a letter from village board to Oasis and copying the Albany County Department of Mental Health, denoting, the discussion at tonight's meeting and to advise, Oasis that the village board has, determined that there's strong community, opposition to, the licensing of fusion recovery, and, would like to present our issues as far as the information that was provided to obtain said license.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Good. All right.
So you need a resolution, we'll say authorizing the mayor to do that.
Authorize the mayor.
All right. Yeah.
So should we also, I think we should all,
All of you can sign it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to, take a hand at the first draft?
I can, yeah, I can. And I can, obviously, we're all gonna.
And then
Circulate it
everybody
to
gets
all
some
of us.
input. And could I just make a recommendation? I mean, a lot of us are dealing in waters that we don't deal in on a daily basis.
We all,
Steve, would you mind,
we all are.
would you mind offering some input on the letter?
I can answer some questions for it.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
Okay. We need a motion to approve the meeting minutes on May 15th, 2023 board meeting. So,
I had some corrections.
Yeah,
on. Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah,
Here's a question.
cool, hi. I just had one question. Is there anything as a community, the residents can do? As far as, either writing letters or any type of thing that, the board might be able to recommend that we can, I know there's a, petition out. And, I'm just wondering if there's anything that we can.
I would say write letters, I guess.
Keep your eyes on Menands.net, and I'm giving you the people to write to and write reviews for, and,
All right.
community involvement is,
Yeah.
it's what you do, and that's what everybody's doing here tonight.
Yeah.
And that's
I think
why.
you've done it
things
tonight,
happen.
yes.
So,
All right,
Okay. Warrant number 24, voided check for Innovative Auto for $3,733.58. Reissued check, $3,234.78 is a credit of $498. Warrant number 25 encumbered, general, $65,011.10. Water, $41,295.79. Sewer, $28,179.82.
Sorry, could you say that one again?
$28,179.82. Totaling $486.71. Warrant number 1, general, $137,424.81. Water, $157,517.01. Sewer, $17,905, totaling let me start that again. $312,846.82. Warrant number 1X, general, $129,360. Payroll number 26, $108,599.87. Payroll number one, $99,098, totaling $207,685.
Could you state that last figure again?
The
The total.
$207,600.85.
Thank you. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Transfers. Quarter to the clerk, $620. Court officer, $120. Court supplies, $20. Court printing, $480. Clerk miscellaneous, $890. Payroll services, $810. Clerk overtime, $80. Contingency account, $21,050. Contractor services, $9,400. Computer and software, $11,650. Police lieutenant, $7,945. Police overtime, $4,210. BWI patrol, $410. Communicator part-time, $1,175. Police communicator overtime, $2,150. Police training, $1,920. Police vehicle maintenance, $1,920. Communication repairs, $310. Administrative expenses, $310. Contractors, $8,410 to street vehicle maintenance, $600. Street paving and blacktop, $7,810. State retirement, $8,965. Personnel services, $100. Zoning legal issues, notices, $40. Refuge, gas and oil, $700. Vehicle maintenance, $3,320. Refuge landfill charges, $4,675. From the water fund, contingency account, $8,225. $1,800 for light power and gas. Pump station laborers, $3,476. $475, thank you. And distribution contractors, $2,950.
What is that? Sorry.
That was for the water breaks. It was a contract for the water breaks.
Second.
Aye.
Hold on, man. We got three. And more. We got three, other transfers that we have to take care of. The treasurer is requesting and authorized to make the following transfers. Do you want to read it, Brett, or do you have it? There. The one for the, LED lights. Okay.
Is it in here?
Yeah, it's the
Butterman?
it's for the budget amendment.
Here it is. Yeah,
There's three of them.
Yeah. Treasurer requests the, board amend the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget to cover the cost of converting the streetlights in the village to LED. This is approved at the, February 27th, 2023 board meeting. Resolution number 23016. He requests that account A 5182.0400 be increased by $20,460 to cover the village's share of the conversion. The remaining amount of the cost will be from ARPA funds. I move that, this be authorized.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, do we need the one for the dump truck?
Yeah, I'll read it. The treasurer requests the board amend the 2023-24 fiscal year budget to cover the cost of purchasing a used 1-ton dump truck. He requests that the account A5110.0210 be increased by $135,000. This will replace truck 3, which needs about $50,000 of work to make it road passable. After discussion, I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the third one's for the engineering cost of, I gave you a copy of that, for the engineering cost for the South End Water Project.
The treasurer requests the board amend the 2022-2023 fiscal year water budget to cover the engineering costs of the project for the south end of the village. We will not be able to submit these to the EFC for reimbursement until after August 6, 2023. He requests that account F8310.0453 be increased by $163,000. The money will be transferred from water saving until reimbursed. Also, he would like to, do we have to do them separately?
No.
Oh, okay. He requests that account G 8120.0453 be increased by $193,000. The money will be transferred from the sewer saving account until reimbursed. This was discussed at the village with the village's accountants and was approved by them. I move that this be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Matt?
That's right here.
No, Matt Robson.
Oh.
Matt, are you on? There you go. So, this is for the, extension of the site plan for 35 Broadway.
Hi, thank you for having me on tonight. What we're here tonight for is to extend the approval for the Soldier On project located at 35 Broadway. I can go through a brief recap for the board members, showing you what is included in the project. Really just wanting to extend that forward. We have great news. We have received funding for the project. We are moving forward with that. So we're going to be moving into building permit and moving forward in the next couple months here. So we're really excited, and it's exciting for the village. Basically, the project is a 68-unit multi-family apartment building that's going to be occupied by veterans and have an affordable component as well. Looking at the, can I share my screen with the board so you can see what I'm looking at here?
That's fine. Matt, how long of an extension are you looking for?
We're looking for a 1-year extension at this time. We feel that we should be able to get through that process and start construction by the end of that, before that year.
Yeah, I think the board is familiar with this project. This is I believe, the second extension that's been requested.
Yes. And it's no fault of their own. It's because they've been waiting on the funding.
It's because of financing. Understood. So you can simply pass a resolution if you're so inclined.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You're all set, Matt.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I'll send you a copy of the resolution tomorrow.
Excellent. Thank you.
You want to go with the things that you have?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll do the application first for 90 Broadway.
Sure.
Okay. So the Village of Menands received an application for a cannabis dispensary at 90 Broadway on May 25th. LaBella Associates reviewed that application, deemed it incomplete, submitted a letter to the applicant on June 1st. The applicant turned around the requested information received that on Saturday. And we reviewed that Sunday. and today. And, that they complied, with, what we had requested, minus, the escrow for $750, application fee of $600, and a copy of their, final license from the state. We've determined that the application is substantially complete enough to schedule a public hearing, and that's a determination that the village board needs to make if it is complete from your perspective. And then scheduling that hearing, obviously, is at your discretion as well. I can provide a quick summary of the project if you'd like. So the board has all the materials. They were uploaded to the project review folders that we have. So they had received their approval by the state to identify a location. They had received their preliminary sign off from the state on the location at 90 Broadway, meeting all of the legal setback requirements that are in the law. They provided all of the requirements within the village zoning ordinance for the cannabis dispensary, including an owner management plan, a security management plan, waste management plan as well. We asked them for details on their outdoor cameras, so they provided all the locations of the cameras, as well as a crowd management control plan for dealing with what we would expect to have lines similar to what other municipalities have seen when dispensaries are open. So the plans they provided are appropriate. We feel enough, again, for the village board to review and make a final determination on completeness. It's located at 90 Broadway, Space 8, which is the end cap that borders Broadway in Mid-City Plaza. They also provided their hours of operation, which would be Monday through Sunday, basically 7 days a week, 9 to 9, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Their queuing location for the lines would be between the building facade and Broadway on their property, so not in the parking lot, not on the sidewalk that all the other businesses use. We submitted the referral to Albany County, and Lyle will be referring the application to both the village police department and the fire department for their review as well. So they have provided a significant amount of information. So again, that's in the project review folder, and their permit is pending. It's my understanding, and obviously, they were approved a conditional license, so that they are an entity that has the ability to seek a final license for the dispensary. And that's another request that we have out to them, is clarification on when they would get that final license approval for this location. So that is outstanding as well.
Just a quick question. Now, they are aware that we've already passed the moratorium on-site use.
On consumption.
Consumption,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so, yeah, they, in their site plan, they did have a spot.
Yeah, I saw
that.
that.
So we put them on notice both through email and today's
So
letter.
they have that
saying
clear.
That is not gonna be allowed, and he agreed, he understood, and I think it was just their site plan they provided to the state, and it's not gonna be reviewed, so they are aware of that.
Thank you.
So this is they have to apply for a special use permit. Arizona law. By law, village law, New York village law. From the date of the application, the village board has 62 days in which to conduct a public hearing. And then after the public hearing, you can do it within 10 days or 62 days, it has to be properly noticed. Within 62 days after the public hearing, the village board needs to issue a decision on the application for special use permit. They can reject, they can approve, and they can approve, with conditions, based on that presentation. The applicant wanted to make a, presentation to the board tonight. My recommendation was, and in speaking with Matt, is that any presentation should be made at the public hearing so that the public would have an opportunity to hear what they're proposing and to comment on it.
So what we're doing tonight is setting it down for public hearing at the next board.
That's all you're doing. At whatever board meeting.
That would be June 26th because it's a week delayed with our next meeting.
Yep.
Because of the holidays. Yeah.
In the election.
And then the election.
So does anybody want to make a motion to?
Make a motion to set a public hearing for,
June 26th.
June 26th.
In regards to the. Regards to.
Oh, in regards to, 30, excuse me, 30.
What's the end of his name?
NL Dispo LLC.
Is that you?
Yes, it's, I'm the card holder, Joseph Kelly. I have a business card, and that's so you can speak on over to issue. Thank you for your help and all this today. I appreciate that.
This whole
Wait, was there a second? First and second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, see you on the 26th.
So John, just make sure the proper notice is.
I'll be out tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, we have the, south side. Tom Bates.
South Bend.
My name's Tom Bates with LaBella, and we're doing the work on the engineering for the south side water and sewer replacement project. And presently the project is wrapping up in the design phase. We've broken it down to two contracts. The first contract is replacement of the water and sewer in the south of neighborhood from Wolford, Amsterdam, and Hendricks, and then the side streets for that. That's all water and sewer, water and sewer replacement and road reconstruction service. And that's wrapping up in design. The 90% drawings have been submitted to the funding agency and the Department of Health and Department of Environmental Conservation, and also to the village for review and comments. So that's moving along pretty well. And we're getting, the next step is really to move to preparing wrapping up the bid documents, and then there'll also be, we've talked a lot about public informational meetings to let the public know the impacts on what the project is going to entail, and we've been looking at phasing and that sort of thing to make sure that there's good public outreach and people understand what the impacts of the project are. And so the next contract, the second contract, is actually putting in an isolation valve on your existing transmission main. And that was separated out. This is a smaller contract that's been approved by the Department of Health, and it's ready to go to bid. The bid documents are all prepared. We were talking about calling for bids tonight on that project so that can proceed into construction later this summer. That's all the parts are ordered. So that's kind of just a real, in a nutshell, where we are with the project. Any questions?
Project.
It's a big project, and we're looking at a construction period of probably about a year and a half. And so we want to be able to phase it in a manner and have the contractor on board with trying to minimize impacts.
Is it true the goal is to work from the bottom up?
That's the plan, is to connect in at the bottom and then work try to keep two roads open while using one for local traffic. Is the phasing plan right now. That way get everything hooked up and then bring in water to maintain sewer and that and water services. That's really the crux of the project, is maintaining and bypassing the water and sewer services to the residents.
Does the year and a half timeframe include the final paving project or
Yes.
just the, okay?
Yeah, and it's really a ballpark right now, and we think we'll get a better idea of that once we get the bids in and the contractor on board and how they want to phase it down. Do it. Because it is a big, as I said, it's a big project, and we're gonna have a lot of crews working on it for, long hours to get it done within the construction season.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
So just a quick update on the upper reservoir. So the revised bid document scheduled to go out tomorrow with the June 20th opening.
We changed the date of the opening.
Pardon me?
You said June 20th opening?
That estimated.
That's our election.
Okay. All right, let me,
And I'm not gonna be here the 24th, so you can do it anytime after that, but.
so should we shoot for after the 24th then?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, it just as long as it's not the 20th or 21st, 4th.
Substantial completion estimated August 18th and final completion September 6th. So I'll make sure that we update the bid opening 21st, 22nd, 23rd, but not the 24th.
Anytime in there,
Yeah, well. Yeah.
wherever that Friday, it's actually the 23rd, I think, 24th is Friday or Saturday.
So we'll try for the 21st. We should be fine. And then Tim, I don't know if you want to talk about the estuary grant while I'm here.
Well, I think just briefly, what, I thought we discussed was we're gonna take the information that Ivan had done for us prior, and, elaborate on it. It was kind of, Matt felt it was somewhat restricted to just the bridge that would, give access to the Little River. But there's a lot of other factors involved, and we have to work that in, addressing property ownership and how people can access to get down there and so on and so forth, which I thought was, obviously, what good does a bridge do if you can't go anywhere on it? So, I'm gonna start working on that probably in the next few days and see what I can put together. From what I've been provided, it was actually, everything he put in there was great information, what he already gave us. So it's just gonna, add to that. So we'll start from there. And I think we have until the end of July. You can drive down.
No, that's the CFA's. This is July 12th.
July 12th. Okay, mid-July.
We'll probably schedule that.
Pass a resolution from the board, right? Oh, so I gotta get on the next board meeting here, hopefully, or at least the first one of July.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're usually pretty good. If the timing doesn't work out, you'll get it afterwards. And so, yeah, the big picture is that you should provide a broader goal, such as gaining access, and that this is a feasibility study with one of the future benefits or goals is to resize that culvert, however that might happen, to allow for access. But the conversion of that from a culvert to a bridge should not be the primary focus of the application.
Right, and I can see why, Ivan looked at it from that perspective, but you're very correct to say that, okay, we can get that, but then we have to have some place to go once we get it.
Right, because that funding that estuary provides would not be for construction like that.
Yeah.
And of course, you're dealing with 787,
right,
state, federal, a lot of other issues. And so in order to get to that, you'll have to go through the proper planning process to justify it. So let me know if you guys need help with that. We'll certainly provide that assistance.
Is that all you got? I think come up with one more.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, thank you very much. All right, next on the agenda, we need to approve the DPW contract that was recently, negotiated.
I'll make a motion. I thought it was good. I had a couple of questions, but everything sounds to me, and if they approved it, I don't have any issues.
Who actually made that motion?
I'll make it,
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we need to approve the EVA contract, that was recently negotiated. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We already did the dump trucks, let's get that, and
Actually,
Dave,
We need to approve.
we have to approve it. So we didn't.
That was just a transfer, yeah.
The transfer.
motion to approve.
Truck for 135.
It's actually, hold on, I'm gonna look at the right paper. It's actually gonna be less.
I'll be paying my certified check.
We're gonna pay, but Bill got a bank check. So it's gonna be $129,360.
So moved.
Surplus the truck that's.
We'll put it up for surplus, but I don't know how much we get for it. But
Maybe 129,000.
So do we need, all right, let's do this one first.
yeah,
Need a resolution. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then a resolution to put the other one up for surplus.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
wait a minute, hold on now. Okay,
You need a motion, Don, give the dollar amount.
yes. $138,750.
So motion for paving at Parks Lane and Elmwood, 138,750.
To who? Who's the?
Oh, Callan.
Callan.
Okay, contract.
Yep.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is for chips. This is because we have 2 years of rollover for
Right.
chips, right?
So, there's some trees at Dancer Smith Park that,
It's already on.
are not in great shape. We met Mike Hagman, myself, and Brian, met with Frank from the hardware store. He identified 7 trees, this was like 8 trees, that he thinks need to be replaced,
Where are they?
scattered throughout the total area of the park.
There's,
Have like
elm tree by the pavilion, locust near the playground, oak tree near the playground, tulpa tree near the power lines, cedar tree near the pickleball court, and ginkgo tree near the playground.
So the quote that Mike got from 7 Zox came in at $9,250. And that would be, is this with something or not with this stuff?
Yes, it was stuffing, that's what Mike said.
Have to get rid of this stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're waiting we had talked to Channel 13 to do, they had offered us 100 trees, for the village.
Wow.
I think they will have a choice.
Yeah, I don't think they looked at it. We're still waiting to hear from them whether or not they're gonna pay for the trees, which we were gonna incorporate with the South End project.
Yeah.
So that's still kind of pending, but that's where this came up.
Yeah, why 7 Zox? Do we get any others?
Frank has a personal relationship with him, and that price is amazing for the amount of work that they're gonna do.
Okay.
I don't know if the board wants to.
Just to make sure.
I mean, so they're all diseased? They're all diseased. Now, did we ever get Cornell to come in and?
I called them 3 times and they haven't gotten back to me.
I'll be there over the weekend.
We're not cooperative?
No, the university.
Okay.
By 23.
So
But they do own the cooperative, but there's no one there that will do it. I'll talk to the
So
president.
why don't we, just my suggestion, hold off on this,
Get another quote.
get another quote and talk, try to get a hold of the cooperative to confirm that these trees do indeed need to come down. Are we able to try to get that information? from them?
And the dead one, the dead one was a little.
And can we get them to, in what Bill brought up, it was, I mean, the ones at Pump Switzer too, they're, they can take a look at those as well. I mean, if we're gonna do that, because that's what,
And if they're coming in, we might as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
All right, Guys, are you making notes over this?
Yes.
yeah, just on, I note before I think this is just removal, so I think we're fine at this stage, but before we even talk about replacing all those, we should consider, especially if these two are coming down near the pickleball court, that court has gotten a lot of this, like, right, exactly. I mean, I had to wait for it, and then there were people waiting after me. So I think maybe for the next budget cycle, we should consider a second pickleball court.
Set of trees.
Yeah, right there, because I figured, because I talked to the mayor, like, seriously, I stopped by the mayor's house, while I was waiting for a court, and on several occasions I've had to wait, and when we were saying like, oh, we should add a second court, but it's kind of boxed in there. This could give us that opportunity. So before we replace that, we should consider that.
All right, so Don, you got that?
Yeah.
It's great. If you want to play sometime, I've
never played.
So it's great. I have a set.
All right, so we'll table that to get more information by the next meeting.
Okay.
And follow up on the LED streetlights and rooftop units for the.
I spoke to, National Grid, we're all set, except they won't start the project till they get the check. But once they get the check, then once all the lights are converted over, then they'll refund us like $20,000 back from it. But that, so hopefully the project will start this summer and so we'll start that as soon as possible, as soon as they're ready to do it. The rooftop units are gonna be installed this week, probably like Thursday or Friday. And we've had 4 window companies come in to give us quotes on the windows. I've heard back from 2 of them. I am waiting to hear back from the other 2. And hopefully I'll have that for the next meeting.
Are they making your eyes bulge out, or are they
killing me? No, then the only other thing I got is, just a reminder that June 26th meeting is because of the holiday and elections, and our elections are on the 20th.
All right, so David, you're up, sorry.
Okay. I have 2 things. After our elections in April, we had 2 open lieutenant positions. I'm looking to appoint Nick Jindreski and Tony Lepari. Nick has 20+ years with Fowler Heights and came over during that whole event as past chief. And then Tony has 5+ years experience with the Freesville and his home department, Massachusetts. He lives in the village. He has a military background, so pretty level head. So we're looking to just put some experience and some level headedness into the lieutenant positions. We've got a lot of youth and a lot of excitement, but sometimes it's a little tough to corral youth and excitement. I've been there, I was them.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So just looking to appoint those 2 to those positions.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And then secondly, the engine / squad that was purchased from West Albany has essentially already paid for itself. With brush fires being as rampant as they are right now, that has a 200-foot booster reel built into the back, which is about a 1-inch line. It makes life so much easier. We've had a couple times where had some concerns of some apparatus potentially going out of service, and we've been able to just transition with that right over. So I just want to thank you guys for that, because it's been a huge help. And
I saw today on the news that somebody was arrested for some of those brush fires. Were they all connected, or were they?
Nothing down in Menands specifically was to that gentleman. The ones on Albany Shaker in that area were the gentleman that was on the news, and then there was an arrest made today for the one that was up off Albany Shaker. That was a landscaper that, for the record, for anybody that doesn't know, those white oak fuzzies.
The
are
cottonwoods.
tinder boxes.
Yeah.
So if you light them on fire because you hate how they look, fully expect to see us at your front door. So that's a real thing. Because that's what that person did today, and it got from basically Osborne to Albany Shaker.
Somebody tried to burn them away?
Yeah. That person's having a bad day.
All right, thanks, David.
Thank you guys.
I do have one, contractual matter for executive session, but did anybody have anything else before we do?
I have one, thing, as a resolution to offer. Whereas in March 2005, Village of Menands resident Meg Grenier answered the call for residents willing to serve as Village of Menands trustee, winning election to her first public office after having created the popular Concerts in the Park series. And whereas 2 years later, Meg decided to run for mayor of the Village of Menands, hoping to improve the quality of life for residents and bring more businesses to the village, but came in second place by only a handful of votes. And whereas 4 years later, Meg decided to run again for mayor of the Village of Menands, winning the election, becoming the first female mayor of the village. And whereas 18 years after she was first elected to public office, Meg Grenier has done just what she promised to do and more, wrapping up a career of remarkable achievements in the Village of Menands, the town of Colony, Albany County, and the region that will live on for generations to come. And whereas during her tenure as mayor, Meg Grenier presided over the replacement of a significant portion of the water mains, repaving of almost all village streets, improvements to the Sage Estates trail system in Ganser-Smith Park, building a gazebo that has become the centerpiece of Ganser-Smith Park, purchase of the former Key Bank building to become the new village office, purchase of 2 new fire trucks, and many other major projects. And whereas in all of her interactions, Mayor Grenier treated all residents and staff with respect and compassion, making all feel welcome and listened to. And whereas after 2 decades of being the face of Menands, Mayor Grenier leaves office as one of the longest tenured and most distinguished elected officials in the village. And whereas words alone cannot convey the gratitude owed to Mayor Meg Grenier for the countless hours of work she has put in to make Menands a better place to live for his residents and workers, now therefore be it resolved that I, Seth Harris, Deputy Mayor of the Village of Menands, upon a majority vote of the Board of Trustees, do hereby proclaim June 30th, 2023 to be Mayor Megan Grenier Day in the Village of Menands, and thank Mayor Grenier for her 2 decades of public service, while wishing her all the best for a happy, healthy, and well-earned retirement. Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye. You got to say it there. Aye.
I can do that in her absence. I look forward to celebrating that day with the village.
Move forward, there's no way in hell it's gonna bring it down.
Sure, I will share it with you. It's in a Google Doc. Oh, okay. Well, can we still celebrate on the 30th? Sure. Okay. Thank you very much. You're welcome. My pleasure.
Let's take another executive session.
Second. All in favor?
All right.
Yeah, doing that right now.
Congratulations, great night, guys.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to thank you all for the contract.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. It's very great. Appreciate all you guys' service and all these new faces, and that doesn't matter to us. People love serving the village, it's the same. Did you say you had a question about that contract or is it? No, there was a question. I just want to make sure. It wasn't a big deal. It was a big deal. No, it was good. No, it just something I was trying to. I appreciate all your efforts and you guys are awesome. So thank you very much.
Likewise, we appreciate everything you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
For everything.
Mark, will you shut those?
My wife, I'm here, I am. I took a picture of all you guys.
You'll never play check this, is still here.
Yeah, I think it was.
We need to stop recording and we need to,
Yes. And remove people